course, we've had denials across the board with big names. We have denials from people that say, not me. But then we have some of the girls that said, yeah, I did spend time with this individual. So Ghislaine Maxwell, she knows everything. Is she going to roll over? Is she going to open her mouth wide and talk to the feds in the hope of reducing a sentence, potentially cutting a deal with the feds? And I'm sure there are a lot of people that are sweating right now. And, of course, one of the most high profile would be Prince Andrew, who's been pretty much thrown out of all kinds of royal and official duties and somewhat seems to be excommunicated from the family on several levels. And I would imagine that one of the big questions that Ghislaine Maxwell might answer is that photograph of Prince Andrew with one of the young blonde girls in the hallway upstairs of, I think, Ghislaine Maxwell's house. She's in the photo as well. And some claiming, oh, it was photoshopped, it was doctored. That wasn't. So what kind of deal could potentially be cut by Ghislaine Maxwell? I'm going to get into all the detail, all the intricate facts of what happened, the bust early this morning, the FBI knocking on the door and placing her under arrest in New Hampshire. I'll get into all that here in just a second. And it's some fascinating stuff. I mentioned the Gallup survey. I've got this latest Gallup tracking poll. What this is showing is that we, the people, Americans, are increasingly pessimistic as a whole. We got a new high of 65% of U.S. adults say the coronavirus situation is getting worse. So a new high, 65% of U.S. adults are now saying the coronavirus situation is getting worse, and it is in some parts of the country. Now, we still have things mitigated and under control in the original hotspot, for instance, of New York City, but will that change? And that's the big concern. Will other people from some of the hotspots in the Sun Belt, the South, the West, will they then transport and import a resurgence of the coronavirus up north and into the New York metropolitan area? So, again, Gallup tracking, new high of 65% of U.S. adults say the coronavirus situation is getting worse, and we're seeing the news reports. We're seeing what's going on. Many of you are living in places where things are getting worse. Texas, Arizona, Florida, and other states. So a week ago, the number was just 48%. The week before that, it was only 37%. As far as people that thought that the coronavirus situation was getting worse. Additionally, all major party groups are more inclined than they were the previous week to see the situation is getting worse. And that includes an 8% increase among Republicans. An 18% increase, 18-point, I should say, an 18-point increase among independents. And you've got a 15-point higher increase among Democrats. But overall, the gap is huge. If you break things down, as far as party affiliation and ideology, it shouldn't be like this, folks. We should tackle this as Americans because the virus does not stop at your nostril and say, nope, not going in there. You're a Democrat. Nope, I'm not going up that snout. I'm a Republican. Or you're a Republican. I mean, that's ludicrous to think like that. But there's a huge gap. 90% of Democrats see the situation is getting worse. 63% of independents see it that way as well, but only 28% of Republicans believe the situation is getting worse. Now, look around us. Look at Vice President Mike Pence wearing a mask, telling people to wear a mask. Dr. Fauci, Azar from HHS, Secretary Azar, saying that we have a limited time to get things under control or else essentially we're screwed with this resurgence. Is number one. But we're getting plenty of messages from inside the administration. I think there's an argument to be made, a substantial argument, that If the president would have been more forceful, wearing a mask himself, that we might have a different situation early on. But yeah, we had missteps. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not going to be battered or bashed, and I'm not going to lie to you on the radio that the government, that the administration handled things perfectly from the beginning. They did not. Want to listen to other talk radio shows where they'll lie to you and they'll tell you, oh, everything's great, perfect, no problem, everything, we couldn't have done anything better? That's just flat out BS. A lot of things we could have done better. I just don't know why we have this spread, especially since we know the situation is getting worse. It is. In fact, a majority of Republicans, those on my side of the aisle, 54%, say the situation's getting better. In some parts of the country, it certainly has, but we're getting these spikes all over. As a Republican, if I were surveyed, would I say the situation's getting better? I would say no, it's not. And I'm backed up by the facts. The facts. Facts. Who needs facts? I mean, I'm backed up by the facts. And that outlook could lead to behavior that's, well, just as dangerous as what we're seeing amongst the millennials. And we're seeing, again, that laissez-faire, that attitude of, not me, I'm not getting it. I don't have to worry about it. I can go to a bar on South Howard in Tampa and just pack in, just elbow to elbow. I don't have to worry about it. And of course, that's the way it was a couple of weeks back, and look where we are now. Yes, I'm a Republican that says the situation is not getting better. And I'm worried about, again, behavior. Last thing we need is for people to drop their guard and say, oh, the mask thing, it's a hoax, it's deep state, it's this, it's just to attack and make sure that Trump loses. I mean, come on. But that mentality's out there. I don't know how you could say the situation's getting better at this point. That polling, by the way, was conducted June 22nd through the 28th, and it's just out. And things were already, toward the end of that, getting bad